All right, hey folks, it's August 2015, and we are excited to have another monthly Family Life G Chat. And we appreciate you connecting with us and using this resource that we think is super valuable. Whether you found us on Facebook or iTunes or just stumbled across us on the internet, we appreciate everybody that wants to tap into this, and we have some good conversations and. We just want to share those with you guys. So we got a cool day planned today, and I'm actually going to pass it off to Jennifer Williamson, our Family Life Director, and she's going to host today and kind of lead us into who our guest is. So here you go.
Thanks, Andy, and I appreciate everybody who has tuned in to check this out. The subject today is going to be relevant to a whole lot of people. A lot of us have contacts with teenagers. We might have them in our home or in our neighborhood or our church, and I think we all have a role to play in just recognizing when they need help and maybe they haven't asked for it. So that's what piqued my interest with our guest today, Michael Horvath. He posts occasionally on our church's website with very provocative titles that grab your attention and just kind of send your heart racing if you're a parent of teens like I am. And I've just been really interested to hear more about what Michael has to say about the programs that support teens in our community and such. And so he leads the family support group for our Celebrate Recovery program at one of our church campuses, Seacoast Long Point campus. He leads that family support group, and then he is owner and director of Teen Confidential, which does counseling and some other things. So Michael, thank you for joining us, and why don't you take 1 to 2 minutes and tell us a little bit about maybe your background and what makes you so passionate about teens, and at the end of our conversation today you can tell us a little bit about Teen Confidential and how we can help when families need you in your counseling services and also the support groups at the church. So why don't you get us started with a little bit of background.
Okay. Well, I've been in recovery myself going on 24 years. Alcohol and drugs nearly killed me. Got to the point where, I had finished a college and semi-pro basketball career and became into the real world and bored, and alcoholism and addiction ran in my family. So I had the genetic part of that that was into me, as well as I kind of felt lost without my sports. And this is 24 years ago, but the short story is I've been treatment director and program administrator for a couple of agencies in the Low Country, and God had led me to become a volunteer leader at Celebrate Recovery. The pastor there at the time said he didn't know what to do with the families. I mean, we had people who had mental health issues, who had A to Z, whatever, Hearst habits, hang-ups they call it, but he had family members and you didn't know what to do with them. And so I had said, well, that sounds like a good place. And at the time I had a staff of maybe 12 people working for me, and I said, well, what we'll do is we will alternate, and every week somebody different has to go, and then we don't have to, have some single person do it. So it's like every 3 months you get to go. So as a good supervisor, I volunteered to go first, which I did, and then I never shared. So I've been doing that for 8 years. In those 8 years, I have missed one Celebrate Recovery per year. And then I left the agency work because I kind of got tired of the way things were going with them. I'm pretty blunt in a way. I'm very passionate about what I do, and as I told one mom one time, I'm not here to be your son's friend. I'm here to save his life. Of course, you get close to people, and you develop relationships, and you have good relationships with these people. But really, down and dirty, that's it. Getting people, saving kids, and keeping families together and tight is the most important thing. So I went off and I have a couple programs that I'm doing, and one of them is Teen Confidential, which is a program that I developed, which is a hybrid of traditional rehabilitation and addiction counseling and mental health counseling, along with support groups like Celebrate Recovery, AA, NA. And I combine those things, and I have a few packages which are fairly inexpensive when you compare them to treatment facilities, etc. All this stuff came about because the families, the parents told me what they needed. All the kids who I was meeting with were telling me they went to groups, they went to AA, they didn't fit in. They went to NA, they didn't fit in. They tried youth ministry, they didn't fit in, they didn't fit in, they didn't fit in. And so they'd have periods of time where they'd have some sobriety behind them, and then they'd relapse.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'd go to treatment, and they'd relapse, and they'd go to aftercare, and they'd relapse, and they'd go to these groups, and they'd relapse. So that's pretty much how I put that together, and that's where I'm at today.
Sounds like a great resource for that age. I had never really thought about that. They don't fit in sometimes with the adult programs. So
excuse me, I said, I'm cool, but I got tattoos and a motorcycle and earrings and all this stuff, but I'm old. I'm still old, so I don't fit in.
You walked in those steps, so that helps them a lot. I think someone to understand what they are living through. I think
the kids like you, but then you're still not a peer.
Mm-hmm.
And peer support and peer feedback can be extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm. Let's actually use that concept to jump into this whole subject, peer pressure. I mean, I don't even know how you're going to put it in a nutshell. What are our kids facing? Because that's what I see in your post. Let me read some of these titles from your post that grabbed my attention as a parent. And I have, Michael, you don't know this. Some of our listeners who know me know this, but I have 3 kids, and the youngest is this year going to be a freshman in high school. So I'm right in the middle of what you're talking about. My daughter's 14, my son is 16, and then my other daughter is headed to college. So the subject is something I want to know a lot about, so I make sure I'm recognizing anything I need to see as a parent, and also the reality of the picture, and not just what I think it is, but what it really is out there, which is kind of how you post. I mean, one of your subjects is don't be an ostrich, and I feel like as a parent sometimes I really have I have my own parental pressures, and being a wife, being an employee, having a heart for ministry, all the things that go into me. And sometimes it's easier to just hope that nothing's going on, hope that what you maybe heard a little or are a little concerned about, and maybe it's just like, oh no, not my kids, not my school, not my neighborhood. It can be easy to do that. So one of your posts is don't be an ostrich. Another one is June 24th, happy birthday to me, which you posted a couple months ago, and you started it out, I should be dead. Almost 24 years ago, the paramedics revived me from an overdose. And you go into that. Another one is this month's teen report, rape, overdose, and murder. Another one is the real number of teens using drugs. And you even say some things that might come out of your kids' mouths, and if your teen has made some of those statements, you might need to be concerned. So let's jump into that. Oh, another one is deadly secrets, deadly family secrets, false pride kills teens, like parents who don't want to feel like anything's going wrong in their family. I mean, every single one of those hits a different part of our heart as parents. Do we have pride? Are our kids saying something that we should be clued into? Is my head in the ground? Am I being an ostrich? Great titles. So tell us what it looks like out there for the teens. I mean, what's the reality?
Well, I'm kind of glad that I have this opportunity, because when I post those things, I kind of look at them, and before I hit send or whatever, it's like, am I being too blunt? Am I being too hard? I mean, it's a church kind of website, and but I'm putting things out there that are truly going on. And I think that you need to grab the attention of people and shake them sometimes, in however way that happens. And without going way over the top, but I come up with the title to grab the attention, and then put some stuff in there that that really starts to get people to look at their own thinking, their own behaviors, and their own actions.
It's very detailed.
And I'm not a big statistics guy, but they have their place. But when I write those posts, I look at things and I take the information from the people I'm serving. So I had one young lady I was seeing, and after a number of months of clean time, I asked her, I said, all I hear from all the kids are, everybody uses. And what actually is the thing? And she said, probably half.
So when my freshman daughter goes into high school in 1 week, 1/2 of the freshman class are likely to be using what? Marijuana?
Well, there you go. That's one of the things that I jotted down was, they're gonna talk about marijuana and how it should be legalized and this and that and this and that. Before I go off into that, this is the commonplace. They go into the bathroom, the restroom, and someone says, "I have this. Do you want some? You want to buy some?"
My daughter has had that happen.
They either do or they don't. And if they do, they buy it. If they don't, they walk away. So it's very, very, very prevalent. Marijuana is not the drug of choice as far as what it used to be. Because can you imagine? First of all, you got to smoke it. You smoke it in your car, and then you go into school, and they smell you. You got the red eyes. You're trying to sneak it outside. You're trying to sneak it in the bathroom. The smoke smells. All this kind of stuff just exposes you. Well, they're changing to pills, and the benzodiazepines are one thing, but the opiates, the painkillers, are the worst. I have an adult program I run for people who are opiate addicts, which are either the pain medications that they've been on or heroin. Okay, now you're not going to see a lot of heroin in the schools just yet, but the pills are more prevalent because the parents are taking these pills and the kids can go right into the medicine cabinet and pull them out.
And I know in one of your posts you said, you wrote specifically to parents, you said, "Do you think I'm saying something that's giving your kids a roadmap?" And then you said, "I'm not. They already talk about it. They already know about it. I'm not sharing with them anything they don't already hear at school."
Right.
Is that the case?
Right, and the parents really need to know this too. There are stages of use, and there's a big long lecture on it, but down and dirty, experimental, and that's something we do with a lot of different things. We don't know about it, so we try it. And then you move on. If we use it as drugs and alcohol, it'll move into the social stage. We now know what the drug does to us, so we use it in a social type of manner, whether it's alcohol, whether it's caffeine, whether it's cigarettes, to deal with stress quickly, or, a glass of wine or a cocktail. And there's nothing wrong with that. The consequences are very low. But then you move quickly into the abuse stage where people are using it to get high and consequences start to happen. And then you move into the dependency stage, which can be psychological, physiological, or both. Now, the parents that I've worked with for all these years, they never see it coming. They never see it coming. So if you think that, your kids just experimented with it, or, that's fine, or, you might catch them or ask a question, or they might say something that gives you a clue, they're probably beyond that. They're not experimenting. They're beyond the social probably. They're moving into the abuse. So it's social abuse already before you even have a clue that something's going on in your home. And so that's where the diligence and the vigilance and being the parent, not the friend, is important.
So how, going off of that and just letting that conversation continue, if a parent is watching and they suspect maybe there are some verbal cues there, that, like you're talking, how is the best way to approach your kid and minimize, the natural tendency. I mean, I've worked with students for 15 years now, and their natural tendency is to deflect anything that they don't want to talk about, and they're really, really good at hiding things. So how do you approach it that allows that student or that kid or that kid to be able to open up to you as their parent, which is, I think, a harder thing for them to do than open up to someone that isn't their family member?
Right, that's key. Well, first of all, and that's a real broad question, because each one of us are going to have a different parenting style, and each one of us are going to parent differently as far as, I'll just say it, good and bad parenting. I mean, you can't have an open relationship just because you want one now if you never had one before.
Yeah.
So, not to be confrontational, but to be behind them and to open up the conversations. And it's a process. I mean, it can take 2 to 3 months to get them to the point where they might talk a little bit about it. But asking open-ended questions, and not, you did this, or I saw you do that, or I think you're doing, but, I'm a parent, and then our weakness shows our strength. So just saying, it's my fear that something's going on. And so that's why I ask the questions. I'm not telling you that you're doing it, or I'm not saying you're bad if you do it, or anything like that. But I'm here, but I need to know the answer to these questions because I'm scared. And I think that just showing that to them will help them, because as parents we can tend to lead towards the negative sometimes, or the punishment, the consequence, whereas there are positive consequences as well. And so as I lead the family group, I tell them there's very, very much gray area in there, all this. There's not a lot of black and white. And as a clinician, as an experienced person, I don't know everything. A lot of these things are my opinion, which doesn't make them fact. I say, if you run into a provider who says they know it, you better run away from them quickly, because this is a game of a puzzle. It's a puzzle and a process. And then, my phone number is on the Seacoast website. So 7 days a week, my phone number is free for anybody to call who has questions, or, who wants to call me or email me. I put it on the city, because I always felt like, wouldn't it be great if something happened, like you broke your leg or you got hurt or something like this happened, that you could call somebody and actually get some help? And so for the last 8 years, I've been trying to do that and be available. Most of the time, I get back to people within 5 minutes to an hour if I don't pick up right away. But I will get back to them at least the next day. Today, I even sent an email out. I was going back through them, and it was an email 2 months old, and I emailed the person and I said, did I get with you? Did I answer your question? Because I wasn't sure. Because I 7 days a week, I'm getting calls. I'm getting calls on Christmas Eve. There's a lot of emergencies too. 911 isn't going to be able to handle some of this stuff where I can come in and get the quick story down and dirty and give them some guidance to a reference or which direction to go, because I've been out there as a professional and as a person.
Well, thank you for reminding us that an open conversation does not happen just because we want it to as parents, that it takes some background work to make that happen. And if we haven't already been doing that, then it's likely to be a process over, it could be a few months or longer. I know exactly what you mean by that, because I even think we go in and out of stages in my own family of being busy and not talking as openly, and then we, sometimes that kind of leads to a little crisis moment, and it helps us to break through that wall and start, okay, here we are, we all love each other, we're Williamsons, this is what we do, let's talk, let's look at things, and, so even within our family, which, I don't know, our communication is definitely not perfect. I don't even know how my kids honestly would classify it, but we try, and so even in that atmosphere, I feel like we can go into stages of not communicating as well. So thank you for reminding us that open communication is it, and that coming with a humble spirit is going to make all the difference. And it doesn't even have to be a drama or an emergency for a humble spirit to make all the difference. I mean, a parent coming at a child with a top-down, I know, and you are, and we're gonna, and I mean, even an adult coming at me like that, I'm just going to kind of close off. So as parents, we do need to remember to sit down beside them and not on top of them, and to come with a humility. I love what you said. I'm really concerned that this is going on. I have a fear that, tell me if I'm right or wrong. Help me understand. Questions like that. I mean, it's key. And so I'm glad you reminded us of that.
And you will get lied to. But that you can't control what their response is going to be, but you're trying to open that door.
How do we recognize if they're lying to us?
It takes time. I mean, are
there any kind of clues that go across kind of all families or all kids, or there things that?
No, not really.
No. Okay.
But I think going back a step is that, as parents, that's where we're weakest, is that communication, because we're the parents. So, if you know somebody, maybe I have the fear, and would you do me a favor and go talk to Andy?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so Andy can get down, but Andy, this is the way I do it. If somebody, I ended up getting a little business license because so many people kept asking for a session here or a session there. Mm-hmm. And so the kids come to me and I tell them, unless you're going to kill me or kill somebody else, I'm not going to run back and report this to your parents. And so automatically I guess I take my motorcycle helmet off, and they don't feel as, oh my God, this guy's going to brainwash me or something like that, as a psychologist or something like that, They end up with that trust, as much trust as you can get at a face-to-face meeting, but they will open up to me more than they will to the parents. They will open up to someone in Andy's position more than they will open up to the parents. So sometimes hooking that up, and then, and sometimes I think that's really important, is that face-to-face with people who aren't somebody who's an authority per se, mm-hmm. who's got something over their head or a thumb on them.
Mm-hmm. Or who has, varying degrees of control over them and their lives. I mean, yeah. All right, so let's see. You said a lot of times families, for different reasons, rationalize and justify, or look away from it. Do you think that parents might have clues that something's going on, but they minimize, or because of their pride, they just feel like they can handle it all in-house, and I don't want anybody to know? I mean, I don't know. Just talk about that for a minute, because I honestly think that's one of the biggest problems, is just, it can't be that. It could never be that. Or what would we do? I mean, what would we do? I mean, our family would go into crisis. What would we do? But then you remind us that's better than looking at a coffin. I mean, I think you said that in one of your posts.
Yeah, and I think those two things. I mean, I think the bigger ones are, number one, we've got too many parents, and here comes the bluntness, that can't be bothered because of their tennis lesson, and they're too busy. They're not involved in their kids' life. I'm a stepdad, so I've tried to provide time with my stepdaughter, because her biological father is overseas. So I have that, so the parents don't want to be bothered, or it's that false pride, which is not true pride. It's, I can handle this, I can take care of this, I can't let anybody else know about it. We can handle things in-house, that type of thing. The fear is a big major factor as well, because they don't want, it's that facade of everything's all put together,
right?
And it's not. And so just to get through that and just say, I need help, and where can I go to get that? That's why I started putting those posts out there, because I wanted people to be able to, know that there's a place to go, that it's in confidence, and then I can work on them from there, get them to Celebrate Recovery. The family support group, it's free. I think one of my posts was free counseling. FREE, a capital letter. I mean, why not use these resources? We've got a ton of resources, and Seacoast has so much to offer. So, hiding is a very difficult thing, and I think part of that isn't just the parents, although we focused on them in this answer. The hiding is everywhere.
Right. Well, I think one of the great things about how you do write in those posts is you're very specific with words that might have come out of their mouths, or situations that might be happening, or thoughts going on in their heads. And I think, honestly, I believe that's what it takes these days, is for someone to, it's almost like shining light into the darkness that's their little secret world. It's like when you shine the light in there, you show that they're not the only one thinking that you have like blown the cover off of what the parents might be thinking or what the kids might be thinking. And once the cover's blown off, even if it's a shock at first, I think that it can motivate people to feel like they know they're going somewhere where someone understands, or where they're just not going to be alone. It's not so different. You're not the only one. It's better than the alternative, which can be, it could be death or much more destruction than what's going on right now. And so I hope you'll keep up those posts that are very specific and detailed with what the picture might look like in someone's home or in someone's heart that they've never told anybody. And they're playing a pretty good game, of covering it up. So.
And I think people, they feel they're alone because your other family members don't understand, and your friends don't understand, and if they don't have that similar problem, they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
The family support group is there every Tuesday, and you come in, and I average 16 to 20 people in there. I've had up to 35 people at one time. Everyone understands because they're all going through it, whether it's a spouse or a kid or a loved one of any type.
Let me ask specifically about that, and then I have a few more questions. So are you saying that, I know Celebrate Recovery is a specific program at Seacoast, so yes. The person with the addiction or it could be whatever level of problem goes there, and their family goes to the family support group.
Yes,
right?
At Long Point Road, they have a service with a message, and it's scripture related about recovery from anything. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they have numerous groups that break off, whether it be women's chemical, men's chemical, men's A to Z, which means anything. Could be porn, could be sex, it could be food. They actually have a women's overcomers group with, I believe, is food kind of things. Mm-hmm. And the what I call codependency/family support group is the one that I do, and that's just for people who have loved ones with the addiction problems, because they are as sick. Once again, blunt. They are as sick as the addict, and there's a lot of similarities between their behaviors and the addict's behavior, and so. But to get them in there, and so they come in and they're fearful. I had one lady, she sat in the parking lot in her car 3 times before she finally came in, because they don't feel like anyone will understand them. And so once they get in, they feel welcome, they feel comfortable, they feel that support. I always say...
Let me interrupt you and ask, what are some of the similarities? That's news to me. What are some of the similarities between should I just say the addict? Are they pretty much always addicts? Or I don't want to... Okay, so let's say addict in this example. What would be... because I know some people come in to Celebrate Recovery, it's for hurts, habits, and hang-ups. It's not all about someone who's addicted to a drug. So, and I want to say that because I feel like that's valuable. You do not have to be a hardcore drug addict or any other kind of addict to benefit from that group. So, but say you are a drug addict, what are some similarities that that the addict has and that the family has? Because that's news to me.
The addict, we're going to get a little feedback here. Justification, rationalization, blaming, all these different denial patterns. They would exhibit these behaviors: hiding, sneaking, lying, stealing, that type of thing. The family members are all going to bail them out of their consequences. Fix this, fix that, hide this, hide that, take care of it themselves. And so their behaviors are very similar, as well as the addicts. They do insane types of things. I had one lady who actually had a direct telephone number to her son's drug dealer because she was afraid he was going to get killed if he didn't have his bills paid, so she'd Western Union the money to the drug dealer. So that fear of the families brings them together. The family support group, you know, I'll say the majority of people are dealing with addictions, but I don't run it towards addictions unless I see that as being almost 100% of the people there that night. I make sure that everybody's needs are met as I facilitate that. Seacoast has been awesome in allowing me to run it as an open share group because I have clinical skills where the other volunteers follow a strict Celebrate Recovery volunteer share and pass, which is different. And I'll tell you, even experienced and clinical and trained as I am, it can get pretty hairy because there's some pretty crazy, deadly stuff going on and things that are talked about in that group.
I have a couple of other questions for you. What about college-age kids? How can we set them up the best we can when they're out from under our household, and we can't control the friends, we can't control what groups they get in when they go? Okay. What can we do?
The best thing is the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference in the abbreviated form. They're adults. You've brought them up. They're going to have new experiences, so you're they're going to be experimenting with lots of different things. They might experiment with, maybe I want to be on the volleyball club. That's an experiment. I've never joined a club before. Do they like it? Do they don't like it? I mean, it doesn't have to just go with drugs. So they're off on their own. We have to, as parents, know that, you know, our job is done. And if God is our Father, and God loves us and loves our children more than we ever could, then He has a plan. And, you know, He's got their best interests at heart. He knows what's going on. And, you know, do you remember when we were little kids and you did something wrong and your dad went, "What were you thinking?" You know, apparently nothing. So, you know, a lot of times kids or young people are just not thinking when they're doing things. You know, the brain, the new studies are showing that the brain in males doesn't even mature fully until 25 years old.
I've read that too, that they literally do not and cannot think long term, and like we do, like see everything's kind of right here in front of their faces, like right now. Even though you tell them what consequences might be or how to plan or prepare, it's like they take it in, but they can't exactly. I don't know. I don't want to excuse them, but it's almost like they can't really walk in that like we can.
Right. Right, and you know, God speaks through my mouth. I'm not saying He speaks. Sometimes I hear things that I say to the groups that I don't even know I'm going to say. And one night, and I use it now all the time, is raise your hand if you have faith in God. And everybody raises their hand. And then I say, okay, good. Now raise your hand if you trust in God. Uh-oh. Now, there's a difference. If you trust in God, you would trust that He has your child in His hands. But that trust is hard, and we give it away and we take it back, and we give it away and we take it back. Mm-hmm. So, this recovery thing is a process for the families, a lifelong process, as well as it is for the teen, whether they're addicted or not. All the principles that I teach can be applied to many aspects of life as well.
How do we know when to trust and when to act?
That's the part of the gray area. I always say I'm not a mom, so I won't be able to fully walk in mom's shoes. They always try to pin me down about what are these addicts thinking. They want to know the answers. You have to. You can't walk in an addict's shoes, so you will never fully understand. Can you repeat the question again?
Just how do we know as parents when to trust and when to act on something? Okay. Is it completely the Holy Spirit? Like sometimes we just know that we need to push into that a little bit, but most of the time we trust, or like of college age kids.
Yeah, well.
Like I said, I'm sending my daughter off to college. I mean, I don't want to have my head in the sand and trust too much, but acting too much means I'm all in her business all the time, and I can't do that either. So what I'm finding this summer, especially her year between senior and college, what God's been showing me is the Holy Spirit. I mean, I have never felt such direction as I have felt this summer with decisions and with just seeing things and kind of knowing that that's something to talk to her about, and that's something that's just a preference of mine, but she might not have the same preference. It's like I was telling my friend the other day, the difference between convictions and preferences. And it's the convictions that I talk with her about, talk with my husband, and then we agree that needs to be talked about. And the preferences, we're just having to let those go. It's a little tricky living in the house when, it's just a preference, and it's like, because that's not how we do it, but I don't want to be in her business either. So the convictions are really what we act on. And I feel like the Holy Spirit's really, really been guiding us very clearly. It's been something I'm really grateful for. So that would be what I would say. What would you say as a professional?
Yeah, I would lean towards the trust, but you've brought up the child, and so their behaviors better than anybody. But that's the key to this all is support, because I'm a cognitive behavior therapist. I use them all the different interventions, but that's the one I lean on. There's a difference between thoughts and feelings, and when we take actions or we make decisions based on our feelings, those are generally when we get in trouble. Mm-hmm. And being a parent, our thinking is kind of messed up because our emotions are driving our thinking. So if you aren't in a small group, then get in one. And if you aren't coming to my group, then get there, because someone, or have a support person who's going to be able to, this is what's going on with me, what do you suggest to do? Because
perspective.
Other people can run our lives better than we can sometimes because they're emotionally detached.
Yeah. And they just, I'm so glad you said that. That's true too. That has helped so much this summer is perspective. Just stepping away from the emotions of it, talking to other people in the same kind of stage of life, and some a little further ahead than we are, and just gaining perspective. It settles my heart. It just settles my heart. And sometimes I just need for someone to remind me from out here, instead of like I'm always looking at it right up in front of my face. So. And God
puts those people in our lives.
Yeah.
For a reason, and so they can help. And the size of the support group, the family group, you've got a lot of different thoughts and opinions, and there might not be a specific answer to the problem, but as a whole, when you've got 15 people sitting there giving input who have maybe experienced it or been through it before or have some ideas that I don't think of, you get a great big picture. You get a bigger picture than just coming and sitting down individually with one person, or trying to solve it with your husband or your wife.
Right.
Because they're emotionally involved, or they're not involved like they should be. You know, so it's outside of us.
Well, I have just one more question I want to ask Andy. I was going to just ask, what can the schools do to help the kids, or what they are doing? And Andy, I know you would have some input in that, as you have walked with, this whole group of kids for all these years through middle and high school at James Island campus. I mean, are the schools helping? Is there something they can do? Do you have any stories?
I mean, I'm a big fan of, and I think Michael even alluded to it earlier, that teenagers, especially these days, are going to respond differently, and it really depends on that person and what they're comfortable with. So I'm a big fan of as many resources as there are. Let's have more, because where one student has seemed to respond to their guidance counselor, or someone that came and spoke at their school, or some resource that the schools have, which the schools are getting better, I think, from an outside perspective of putting more and more resources out there, that some are confidential, some are, I'm desperate, I don't care what the consequences are, I need help, to some students are going to respond to me. Some students in my ministry are not going to respond to me, not because they don't like me, but because that influence just isn't there, that connection just isn't there. So I think the more resources that are out there, the better. And that's why I'm excited to learn more about what Michael does, because as he's talking, I'm just like, oh, that would be so great to get that family connected with what Michael does. And some of them won't. I know that they won't take that step there. And so inside my office is the best way, or the influence that their English teacher has that I know is a Christian, is what they need. So I just think the more resources out there, the better, as long as they're handled and managed properly. But yeah, that's my take on I guess that question. I hope that answers that question.
I can add to that. The schools are ostriches as well, and they don't want to look bad. And I've walked into many and met many of the counselors and principals, and they don't want their school to look bad, so they're not going to address these things sometimes. And that's sad, because kids are dying. And a lot of things you hear an accident on the TV, that kid got killed or something like that, they gloss over, or they don't even touch the fact that drugs or alcohol were part of it. So the only way we're going to get through this, or really, is when everybody starts to get real and just say, you know what, these are my shortcomings. Who can do this? Who can fix this? Who's best equipped to do it? But we all have to say, this is what I can do and this is what I can't do, and not try to hide. I know it's our own fear. I mean, and like I said, this is my opinion. Some of it's evidence that I've seen. I can't speak for all of it, but I mean, even as a youth minister, you have these ties to these kids. And if you know that they're using something, you're afraid to let them go or expose them because you might lose them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't say anything. And then they're not getting what they need. And so, this getting through these mental health issues, these drug and alcohol things, we have to acknowledge it and call it what it is, to get things going and moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think that, you brought up something, I won't take a lot of time on it, but there's aspects of, because of my job title and my employment, that I'm a mandatory reporter, of having to report if I hear such and such and such, and so that makes it really, really tricky, because you don't want to lose the confidence of that student. At the same time, you're obligated to do this, and at the same time, you're like, this person needs help beyond what I can do. And so, from what I've gathered before, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have the ability to have that confidentiality, correct?
I'm not on HIPAA is one thing. I'm under federal law. It's 42 CFR, which goes above and beyond. It makes HIPAA look like nothing as far as confidentiality goes. I can't say anything to anybody without a release of information. And if I get a subpoena, I can go into court, and the judge can't make me say anything if there's not a release of information. They got to take additional steps for me to say anything. So confidentiality is extreme. Yeah. But I hear you. It's tricky.
Well, let's say what your website or contact info for you is, Michael, as we wrap this up today, because I definitely want folks to know how to get in touch with you personally, and if they are not in the area, which a lot of people that are watching the Facebook, that are in James Island Family Life and seeing it through Facebook, they're not in our area. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe an email or something from you would help them get connected with a similar program, or, I mean, I don't know, but we need to put your contact information out there and the name of your group. So is it called Teen Confidential?
Yes, you can go through it. My business is the Low Country Center for Addiction Treatment.
Okay.
So, slowly, because it is long, is www.lcat, like LCAT, dash, not an underscore, but a dash, teenconfidential.com. www.lcat-teenconfidential.com, and that will get you the information you need. I have a mom who came to the family group who actually answers the phone for me because she doesn't want parents to go through what she had to go through. So I've got volunteers all over the place who really want to help out with this. And the phone number is instead of me saying it, is right on that website.
Is that showing, Andy, right there?
Yeah, I've got it up there to show, and it says people know what it looks like when they get to it, and we can also post the actual link on our Family Life Facebook page too.
That's cool.
Great. So they can connect with you through that.
They can connect me, and she'll call me if someone wants to get me. You can call 843-557-2526 is my personal cell, my direct cell line. So if you have questions or anything like that, or you have an emergency or whatever, use that. Feel free. I'll do the best that I can. If you just, if you have more teen questions or whatever, go to the website, use our other phone number, which is on there, and Nancy will answer. And she's a mom, and she'll help you herself because she's walked the walk, and that's why I have her as part of my team.
Well, Michael, I'm really grateful that you joined us this morning. I feel like I learned a lot, and I hope that someone listening will, something in there will spark something that they needed to know, or they needed to face, or they needed to say, or whatever it is. So I'm thankful for your heart to serve other people and your passion for families. It's wonderful to have you. Thank you for spending this time with us this morning.
Well, my pleasure, absolutely. It's something that's really important.
Awesome. Yeah, and thanks, Jennifer, for hosting and preparing for this talk. And like we said at the beginning, join our Family Life Facebook page. You can go to Facebook and just in the search engine inside Facebook, just search for James Island Family Life and send a request to join. We've never denied anyone to join, so we'll accept everyone. You can also search the same thing, James Island Family Life, on iTunes and get our Family Life podcasts. They're 5-minute episodes of just random topics that are on our heart, and you hear a lot from Pastor Joey and a few others on parenting, and not just parenting, but family life in general. So you can check out that resource as well. And I think that's it. So again, we appreciate you guys for joining, and share the link with somebody you think would benefit from this conversation, because we think that everyone will. So, all right, we will catch you guys next month.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome. Thanks.